I never thought a routine checkup would reveal that my wife of 38 years had been slowly killing me. My name is Robert Marshall, but everyone calls me Bob. I'm 62 years old, a retired high school mathematics teacher from Calgary, Alberta. For the past 3 years, I'd been feeling progressively worse. Fatigue that wouldn't lift no matter how much I slept. Shortness of breath climbing the stairs to our bedroom. Chest pains that my wife, Linda, assured me were just age catching up with me. She was a registered dietitian, after all. She knew about health. I trusted her completely. Linda had been managing my diet and supplements since my retirement. She'd always been passionate about nutrition, and when I left teaching, she insisted on taking full control of my health regimen. "You've spent 40 years teaching teenagers algebra," she'd say with that warm smile of hers. "Let me take care of you now, Bob. You deserve it." And I believed her. Every morning, she'd prepare my vitamin cocktail, a handful of pills and powders mixed into my breakfast smoothie. Every meal was carefully portioned, every ingredient scrutinized. She'd throw out anything I bought from the grocery store that didn't meet her standards. "This has too much sodium, Bob. These supplements are garbage quality." She was so dedicated, so loving, or so I thought. The symptoms started subtly about 18 months after I retired. A general weakness I attributed to lack of routine. Then came the irregular heartbeat, the dizziness, the nausea. Linda would squeeze my hand and tell me it was normal for men my age. She'd adjust my supplements, add new powders to my smoothies. "Your potassium is probably low," she'd explain. "This will help regulate your heart rhythm." But I only got worse. By last fall, I could barely walk from the parking lot to the grocery store without stopping to catch my breath. My hands trembled constantly. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing so fast I thought it would explode. Linda would hold me, stroke my hair, and whisper that we'd get through this together. "Maybe you should see a doctor," I finally suggested one morning, my voice weak as I clutched my chest. Her face flickered with something I couldn't quite read. "I've been monitoring everything, Bob. Your diet is perfect. You're probably just anxious about aging. Why don't we try some meditation? I'll find you a good app." But the pain got worse. In early December, I woke up at 3 in the morning, unable to breathe. The pressure in my chest felt like an elephant sitting on my ribcage. I stumbled out of bed, gasping, and collapsed in the hallway. Linda found me there. Instead of calling an ambulance immediately, she helped me back to bed. "It's probably just a panic attack, honey. Breathe slowly, in through your nose, out through your mouth. I need hospital." I managed to wheeze. She hesitated. Actually hesitated. Looking back now, that pause tells me everything I need to know. But finally, she called 911. The paramedics arrived within 12 minutes. By then, my lips had turned blue. They rushed me to Foothills Medical Center, and I remember very little of that night beyond the oxygen mask, the beeping monitors, and Linda's hand in mine, her face a mask of concern. I spent 4 days in the cardiac unit. The attending cardiologist, Dr. Patricia Chen, ran every test imaginable. She was thorough, asking questions about my medical history, my lifestyle, my diet. Linda answered most of them for me, standing beside my hospital bed in her professional dietitian mode, rattling off the exact specifications of my nutritional regimen. Dr. Chen seemed satisfied with the initial diagnosis. Atrial fibrillation, possibly stress-induced, combined with general heart muscle weakness common in men my age. She prescribed medication and scheduled a follow-up in 6 weeks. "You're lucky," she told me before I was discharged. Another hour, and we might have been having a very different conversation. Linda drove me home, her hand on my knee the entire way. "I was so scared, Bob. I thought I was going to lose you." "You saved me," I told her, squeezing her fingers. "If you hadn't called when you did," she smiled. But something about it seemed off, tight. "I'll always take care of you." The prescribed medications helped somewhat. My heart rhythm stabilized, though the weakness and trembling persisted. Linda insisted on managing my medication schedule along with my supplements. "We don't want any interactions," she explained. "I'll make sure everything is timed correctly." 6 weeks later, I returned to Foothills Medical Center for my follow-up, but Dr. Chen wasn't there. The receptionist explained she'd taken a position at a hospital in Vancouver. Instead, I'd be seeing Dr. Marcus Okafor, a new cardiologist who just joined the practice. I felt a flash of disappointment. Dr. Chen had been thorough, kind. But I checked in and waited my turn, Linda beside me, scrolling through her phone. When Dr. Okafor called my name, the first thing I noticed was how young he looked. Maybe 40, with an intensity in his eyes that reminded me of my most dedicated students. He shook my hand firmly, introduced himself, and then did something unexpected. "Mr. Marshall, I'd like to examine you alone, if that's all right." It's standard practice for me to do initial assessments, one-on-one. Linda's smile tightened. I'm his wife. I'm also a registered dietitian. I've been managing his nutritional therapy. I understand, ma'am, and I'll definitely want to speak with you shortly. But I prefer to examine my patients individually first. His tone was polite but firm. Linda reluctantly left the room. I could see she wasn't happy about it. Dr. Okafor began his examination, listening to my heart, checking my blood pressure, examining my hands. His brow furrowed as he looked at my trembling fingers. "Mr. Marshall, how long have you had this tremor?" "About 18 months, I think. My wife says it's normal aging." He made a note. "And the fatigue? The weakness?" "About the same time frame." He pulled up my chart on his computer, studying the previous test results. Then he asked me to describe my typical day, what I ate, what supplements I took, my activity level. When I mentioned the morning smoothies with all the powders, Linda added, he leaned forward. "What exactly is in these smoothies?" I shrugged. "I'm not sure, honestly. Linda makes them. She's the expert. Different supplements, protein powders, vitamin mixes. She says they're specifically calibrated for my heart condition." Dr. Okafor's expression shifted. It was subtle, but I'd spent 4 decades reading students' faces. I knew when someone had just figured something out. "Mr. Marshall, I'd like to run some additional blood tests, more comprehensive than what Dr. Chen ordered." "Is something wrong?" "I'm not sure yet. But some of your symptoms don't quite align with simple atrial fibrillation. Your tremor, for instance. The persistent weakness despite medication. I want to rule some things out." He called Linda back in and explained he was ordering more tests. She asked what he was looking for, her professional voice crisp and controlled. "Just being thorough," Dr. Okafor said with a pleasant smile, but his eyes never left hers, and I saw something pass between them, a challenge maybe, or suspicion. The blood work was drawn that afternoon. Dr. Okafor told me he'd put a rush on the analysis and would call me within 48 hours. Linda was quiet on the drive home. "I don't like him," she finally said, as we pulled into our driveway in Elbow Park. Dr. Chen knew what she was doing. "This new doctor is going to mess with your treatment plan. He seems competent. He's young and arrogant. Thinks he knows better than a specialist who's been treating you for weeks." I didn't argue. Linda had always been protective, especially about health matters. It was one of the things I'd loved about her. That night, I woke around 2 a.m. needing water. As I passed Linda's home office on the way to the kitchen, I noticed the light was on. Through the partially open door, I could see her at her computer, her face illuminated by the screen. I almost called out to her, but something stopped me. The expression on her face, it wasn't the loving concern I'd grown accustomed to. It was fear. Raw, panicked fear. I retreated silently back to bed, my heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with my condition. The next day, Linda seemed anxious. She kept checking her phone, jumping slightly whenever it rang. She prepared my smoothie with extra care that morning, triple-checking the measurements of each powder. "Drink it all, Bob. You need your strength." I lifted the glass to my lips, then paused. For the first time in 3 years, I actually looked at what I was drinking. Really looked. The consistency was chalky, the color a murky gray-green. I'd never questioned it before. I'd trusted her. "What exactly is in this?" I asked. Linda's eyes widened slightly. "The usual. Protein powder, spirulina, your heart supplements, potassium, magnesium." Could you write down the specific brands and amounts? Dr. Okafor asked me to document everything I'm taking. Her hand twitched. I'll email you the list later. Drink your smoothie before it separates. I took a sip, and she visibly relaxed. But after she left for her office at the community wellness center, I poured the rest down the sink. I couldn't explain why, just instinct. The same instinct that told me when a student was cheating on a test. Dr. Okafor called late the next afternoon. His voice was carefully neutral, professional. Mr. Marshall, I need you to come back to the hospital. Today, if possible. I've consulted with a colleague, and we'd like to discuss your test results in person. My stomach dropped. Is it cancer? No, sir, but please come in. And Mr. Marshall, don't eat or drink anything before you arrive. Not even water. Can you do that? Yes, but I'll explain everything when you get here. Can you come alone? That question. That specific, pointed question. My wife usually drives me. My hands shake sometimes. Take a cab or an Uber, please. This is important. I'll see you within the hour. He hung up before I could ask more questions. I told Linda I needed to pick up a prescription and called an Uber. She offered to drive, but I insisted I wanted to walk to the pharmacy, get some fresh air. She looked suspicious, but didn't push. The Uber driver tried to make small talk during the 20-minute drive to the hospital, but I couldn't focus. My mind was racing with possibilities, each worse than the last. Dr. Okafor was waiting for me in his office, not an examination room. Sitting beside him was an older woman who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Kovacs, a toxicologist. Toxicologist. Mr. Marshall, please sit down, Dr. Okafor said gently. What I'm about to tell you is going to be very difficult to hear. My mouth went dry. Just tell me. Dr. Kovacs opened a folder. Your blood work shows extremely elevated levels of several substances that shouldn't be there. Specifically, we found toxic levels of potassium supplements, magnesium, and concerning amounts of digitalis. Digitalis? What's that? It's a cardiac glycoside derived from the foxglove plant, she explained. In controlled, tiny doses, it can be therapeutic for certain heart conditions, but in higher amounts, it's poison. It causes irregular heartbeat, weakness, tremors, nausea, and eventually heart failure. The room spun. But I don't take. Linda manages all my supplements. She wouldn't. Dr. Okafor leaned forward, his expression grave. Mr. Marshall, based on the levels we found, you've been ingesting these substances consistently over many months. The pattern suggests chronic, deliberate poisoning. No. I shook my head. No, that's impossible. Linda is a dietitian. She's been trying to help me. Has she been preparing all your food and supplements? Dr. Kovacs asked quietly. Yes, but reality crashed over me like ice water. The smoothies, the carefully controlled diet, her insistence on managing everything, her resistance to me seeing doctors, her panic when Dr. Okafor ordered new tests. Oh my God, I couldn't breathe. Are you telling me my wife has been poisoning me? We can't make that determination, Dr. Okafor said carefully. But we need to involve the authorities, and you need to stop consuming anything she prepares immediately. Mr. Marshall, if you'd continued at this rate for another few months. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. What do I do? My voice came out as a whisper. First, you're checking into the hospital. We need to flush these toxins from your system and monitor your heart. Second, I've already contacted the Calgary Police Service. A detective is on his way to speak with you. I spent that night in a private room at Foothills Medical Center, hooked up to monitors and IV dripping fluids to help clear the poison from my blood. My phone rang 17 times. All calls from Linda. I couldn't answer. I couldn't even think about her without feeling like I might vomit. Detective Jennifer Morrison arrived around 8 p.m. She was in her late 40s, gray beginning to streak through her dark hair, with the kind of weathered face that suggested she'd seen too much human cruelty. She pulled a chair close to my hospital bed. Mr. Marshall, I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to tell me everything. Start from the beginning. So I did. Every detail I could remember. The gradual onset of symptoms, Linda's insistence on controlling my diet, her resistance to medical care, the smoothies, everything. Detective Morrison took notes, her expression growing grimmer with each revelation. "Mr. Marshall, do you have a life insurance policy?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Yes, $500,000. Linda is the beneficiary. "And when did you purchase this policy?" 4 years ago. Right before I retired. Linda suggested it. She said we needed to protect our future. Detective Morrison exchanged a look with her partner, Detective Ryan Hughes, who'd been standing silently by the window. "We'll need access to your home," Morrison said, "to collect evidence, the supplements, food items, anything your wife was preparing for you. She'll be there. She's been calling me all night. We'll handle that. But Mr. Marshall, I need you to understand something. If our investigation confirms what the doctors suspect, your wife will be arrested. This could be a very public, very difficult process." 38 years, I heard myself say. We've been married for 38 years. We raised 2 kids together. How could she do this? Why? That's what we need to find out. The police executed a search warrant on my house at 6 a.m. the next morning. By 10 a.m., Detective Morrison called me with preliminary findings. They'd found it all. In Linda's office, hidden in a locked file cabinet, bottles of pure digitalis, extract ordered from an online herbal supplier, potassium supplements in doses far exceeding safe levels, a notebook detailing dosages and my symptoms, a ledger of murder, written in my wife's neat handwriting. But the worst discovery was tucked in that same cabinet, printed emails, dozens of them, between Linda and a man named Trevor Sutton. Trevor was a personal trainer at the wellness center where Linda worked. The emails went back 2 years. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future together. "Once Bob's gone, we can finally be together. The insurance money will set us up perfectly. We can buy that condo in Canmore you wanted. He's getting weaker. Another few months should do it. It has to look natural." Detective Morrison read me selected excerpts over the phone, her voice carefully professional, but I heard the anger underneath. "Mr. Marshall, we're bringing your wife in for questioning. Mr. Sutton as well. Is Trevor, did he know?" The emails suggest yes. He was complicit. I closed my eyes. "I want to see the emails. All of them. They're evidence. But we'll provide you copies for your records." Linda was arrested that afternoon at her office. The news spread through Calgary's wellness community like wildfire. My phone exploded with calls from friends, colleagues, our adult children. My daughter, Emma, flew in from Toronto that same night. She burst into my hospital room, her face streaked with tears. "Dad! Oh my God, Dad! Is it true?" I held her while she sobbed. My son, Michael, arrived from Vancouver the next morning. Both of them were devastated, furious, confused. "How could Mom do this?" Michael kept asking. How could she? I had no answers. The police investigation moved swiftly. The evidence was overwhelming. The digitalis in the house, the notebook, the emails. They pulled Linda's credit card statements. She'd been purchasing foxglove extract and concentrated potassium supplements for over 18 months. They interviewed the herbalist who'd sold her the digitalis. He remembered her. She'd told him it was for a natural garden pest control. He'd warned her about its toxicity. Trevor Sutton crumbled during his first interview. He confirmed the affair, admitted he knew Linda was taking care of the Bob problem, though he claimed he thought she meant divorce. The emails suggested otherwise. Bail was set at $2 million. Linda's brother mortgaged his house to post it. She was released with an ankle monitor and strict conditions, no contact with me, no leaving Alberta, surrender of passport. I filed for divorce immediately. After 38 years, it took one paragraph to end our marriage. Irreconcilable differences based on attempted murder. My lawyer suggested we could easily argue I'd signed under duress for any legal documents from the past 3 years, including financial matters Linda had controlled. The preliminary hearing was held in early March. I attended, sitting in the gallery with Emma and Michael flanking me. It was the first time I'd seen Linda since my hospitalization. She looked smaller somehow, older, Her lawyer had her dressed conservatively, navy suit, minimal makeup. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The Crown prosecutor laid out the case methodically. The digitalis, the excessive supplements, the documented symptoms, the emails, the life insurance policy, the affair. Linda's lawyer argued there was no direct proof she'd administered the substances. Maybe I'd been taking them myself, confused about dosages. Maybe the emails were taken out of context. But the judge wasn't buying it. The evidence suggests a clear pattern of deliberate, sustained poisoning with financial motive and opportunity. This case will proceed to trial. Trial was set for October, 8 months away. Those 8 months were the longest of my life. The toxins slowly cleared from my system. The trembling stopped. My heart rhythm normalized. My strength returned. Dr. Okafor monitored me closely, amazed at my recovery. "You're lucky," he told me during a checkup in June. "Another 3 months on that regimen, and the damage would have been irreversible. Your heart would have simply given out." "You saved my life," I said. He shook his head. "I just listened. Something felt wrong about your case. The symptoms didn't match the diagnosis cleanly. Always trust your gut in medicine." The media circus was relentless. Calgary dietitian accused of poisoning husband. Love triangle turns deadly. Wife's 3-year murder plot exposed. Linda's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. Manslaughter, 10 years. The Crown refused. This was attempted murder, conspiracy, and they were seeking 15 to 20 years. The trial began October 15th in the Court of Queen's Bench of Alberta. It lasted 3 weeks. I testified for an entire day, walking through our marriage, the onset of my symptoms, Linda's control over my diet and medical care. Reading those emails aloud in open court, hearing my wife's words about waiting for me to die, was the most painful thing I'd ever experienced. Linda's defense team tried to paint me as a difficult husband, controlling and paranoid. They suggested I might have been taking the supplements myself, that my memory was faulty due to my illness. But the forensic evidence was damning. Toxicology reports, the notebook in Linda's handwriting, security footage from the herbal shop showing her purchasing foxglove extract, the emails with Trevor planning their future once Bob is out of the picture. Trevor Sutton had taken a plea deal 5 years for conspiracy to commit murder in exchange for testifying against Linda. He took the stand in week 2, describing their affair, their plans, and Linda's detailed updates about my declining health. "She told me it would look natural," he said, his voice barely audible. "Heart failure in a man his age. No one would question it." Linda finally testified in her own defense. She claimed the supplements were legitimate health products. The digitalis was for her garden. The emails were fantasy, things she wrote but never meant to act on. She loved me, she insisted. She would never hurt me. The jury didn't believe her. After deliberating for 2 days, they returned a verdict. Guilty of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and fraud related to the life insurance policy. At sentencing, the judge's words were harsh. "Mrs. Marshall, you violated the most fundamental trust that exists between spouses. You used your professional knowledge not to heal but to harm. Over 3 years, you systematically poisoned your husband, documenting his deterioration with clinical detachment. You planned to collect insurance money on his death. This was calculated, sustained, and utterly merciless." She sentenced Linda to 18 years in prison. Trevor Sutton had already begun his 5-year sentence. I watched Linda being led away in handcuffs. She looked back at me once, her eyes empty. I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved for 38 years was a stranger. Maybe she always had been. The divorce was finalized in December. I kept the house, my pension, everything. Linda's name was removed from all accounts. My children struggled to reconcile the mother they'd known with the woman who'd tried to murder their father. "We can't visit her," Emma said one evening over dinner at my house. "I know she's our mother, but I can't forgive this." "You don't have to," I told her. "This isn't your burden to carry." By the following spring, I'd sold the house in Elbow Park. Too many memories, all of them now poisoned, pun intended. I bought a smaller condo in Kensington, close to the Bow River pathway where I could walk without thinking about Linda standing in our kitchen, mixing toxins into my morning smoothie. Dr. Okafor remained my cardiologist. He became something of a friend, actually. We'd occasionally grab coffee, and he'd tell me stories about other cases where medical intuition had saved lives. "You should write about this," he suggested once. "Not for attention, but because people need to know. Medical gaslighting is real. Trusting the wrong person with your health can literally kill you." So I did. I wrote an article for a health advocacy magazine about my experience, about trusting your instincts, about getting second opinions, about how domestic abuse isn't always visible bruises. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people reached out with similar stories, partners who controlled their medications, family members who dismissed their symptoms, medical professionals who didn't listen. I started volunteering with a victims advocacy group, speaking at senior centers about elder abuse and medical coercion. Turning my nightmare into something useful gave me purpose. On a Tuesday afternoon in late August, 2 years after my arrest, I was giving a talk at a community center in Bridgeland when a woman approached me during the break. She was maybe 55, with kind eyes and silver hair. "Mr. Marshall, I'm Catherine Hayes. Your story probably saved my life." She explained that after reading my article, she'd insisted on seeing a new doctor, despite her husband's objections. That doctor found she'd been given the wrong diabetes medication for over a year, medication that was slowly destroying her kidneys. "My husband claimed it was a pharmacy mix-up," she said, "but there were too many coincidences. Like your case, I'm divorcing him now." We talked for an hour. She'd also discovered financial infidelity. Her husband had been siphoning money from their accounts. The wrong medication was a way to keep her weak, compliant, too sick to notice. "You helped me see I wasn't crazy," she said. "Thank you." After she left, I sat in my car for a long time, crying. Not from sadness, but from something like relief, purpose. My suffering had meaning now. I started dating again, hesitantly. Nothing serious, just coffee meetings arranged by well-meaning friends. I wasn't sure I could trust anyone again, not after Linda. But then I met Grace at a book club. Yes, a 64-year-old man joining a book club. She was a retired nurse, widowed 5 years, with a laugh that could light up a room. We took it slow, very slow. I told her my story on our third date, expecting her to run. Instead, she reached across the table and took my hand. "My late husband had dementia," she said quietly. "For the last 2 years of his life, he didn't remember who I was. I know what it's like to lose someone while they're still alive. Different circumstances, but I understand loss. We've been together now for 8 months. She's patient with my paranoia about food and medication. She understands when I need space. She never pushes. Last week, we hiked the Grassy Lakes Trail near Canmore, ironically, the same town where Linda and Trevor had planned to buy their love nest with my insurance money. The view from the top was stunning, the lakes brilliantly turquoise against gray rock. "You're smiling," Grace observed. "I'm alive," I said simply. 3 years ago, I shouldn't be, but I am. That doctor of yours, Dr. Okafor, you should send him a Christmas card. I send him one every year, with a gift certificate to a nice restaurant. It's not enough, but it's perfect, she said. We sat on a rocky outcrop, looking out over the valley. My heart beat strong and steady in my chest, no tremors in my hands, no weakness in my limbs, just life, pure and simple. I still think about Linda sometimes. She'll be eligible for parole in about 12 more years, when she's 73. I wonder if she has regrets, if she thinks about those 38 years we had before she decided I was worth more dead than alive. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. I think about Emma's kids, my grandchildren, who visit every month. I think about Michael's new job in Edmonton, how proud I am of him. I think about Grace's hand in mine as we walk along the Bow River. I think about the article I'm writing for a medical journal, working with Dr. Okafor, about recognizing signs of deliberate poisoning in domestic settings. We're hoping it'll be used in medical schools. I think about the advocacy work, the people I've helped, the lives potentially saved. I think about second chances and the random luck of being assigned to a new doctor who actually listened. Mostly, though, I think about how grateful I am to be here, to have survived, to have found purpose in trauma and hope after betrayal. My name is Robert Marshall. I'm 64 years old. 3 years ago, my wife tried to murder me. She almost succeeded. But I'm still here. My heart beats strong. And I've learned that sometimes the ending you survive is better than the one you planned. Life, I've discovered, is sweeter when you've tasted death and chosen to live anyway.